Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to AMI's Executive Insights Briefing, July 2022. We're so excited that you're here with us. We're very excited about the topic of today's session. We're going to be looking at cash displacement and the emerging meta economy. And we're also very pleased that you're with us because we deliver these special webinars twice per year, specifically and only for our AMI clients and close collaborators. We really honor and treasure our relationship with you. And so we strive to bring you the latest and the greatest, the freshest content possible. And what we're going to be talking about today is, in my opinion, one of the most, some of the most exciting content we've ever created, the new data that we've never made available before. And so we're pleased you're here with us. We're excited to engage with you one-on-one around this content, hear your reactions, and so that we can kind of do mutual learning. So thank you for being with us, and let's get right to it. If we go ahead, a quick legal notice. You guys have seen this before. Please take all the information you received today in conjunction and under advisement in combination with other sources, and making sure you're using sound management and business practices when using this information. Some very quick introductions. Most of you should know me. My name is Lindsay Lear, leader of the payments practice here at AMI, and I'm joined by Ignacio Carvalho, Nacho, dear friend and colleague, leader of our crypto and alternative finance research. Nacho, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm very excited to be here, and not only looking forward to today's fantastic webinar, but mainly to the audience discussion and questions at the end. So thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. So on that note, make sure that you go ahead and ask your questions throughout the presentation. We're going to address them all at the end. We'll have plenty of time for discussion at the end, but during the presentation, most of you are familiar with Zoom, just down at the bottom, you'll see the Q&A icon. Click there and insert your questions, and we'll make sure to answer them throughout and at the end of the presentation. Okay. So we have three parts to today's presentation. Okay, we're going to start off with an overview of where do we stand. Q3 2022, it's officially been more than 24 months since the COVID-19 pandemic. We all know we've experienced tremendous transformation. And the goal of this first section of the presentation today is to provide some real grounded analysis of actually what has happened from a quantitative and empirical standpoint, and what are some predictions that we have going forward. The second part of our presentation is going to talk about the metaverse, the meta economy, and all of this digital transformation we've experienced, creating the foundation for the emerging meta economy. And then we're going to finish up with some final conclusions and thought-provoking questions and our discussion. So this first section, right, we want to provide a real empirical account of what's gone on in the past couple of years. And for most of you who have worked in the region over the past decade, know that traditionally Latin America has been considered a highly unbanked region. And actually, at the beginning of 2020, as one of our 6 megatrends, we predicted the disappearance of the unbanked. And we can officially and confidently say that really has finally transpired. In many of our large economies, access to banking, which is defined as ownership of a bank account or a digital account offered by a fintech or a neobank, is exceeding 90%. So in many countries, especially Brazil, which, when Brazil does anything, it really impacts the numbers for the whole region, banking is considered universal. And so we can no longer talk about Latin America as a highly unbanked region. And I still hear, we need to start changing our language. I still hear people frequently referring to Latin America as highly unbanked and a place where banking is not accessible. This is no longer true. Now, we do have some pockets of digital delay, primarily Mexico. Mexico is still a market. We have 58% bank account penetration. This has been an improvement, but by no means have they experienced the acceleration that we've seen in Brazil, Colombia, Chile, Argentina. Peru is also around 53%. Now, Peru has made huge improvements, down from, up from 20% just a couple of years ago, thanks to efforts of banks and digital wallets. Peru is still very highly informal in many ways, high cash penetration, but with major improvements we've seen. So this is kind of common knowledge, but we wanted to give you these definite numbers to really show the transformation we've made. And this universal access to banking lays the groundwork for universal access to the digital economy. Not only digital spaces, but the ability to transact and engage in digital commerce. So we're seeing this lays the foundation for major cash displacement, account-based payments, innovation and credit, open banking, and finally, just widespread participation in digital environments, which is enabling all the innovation we're going to talk about in the second section of the presentation. So disappearance of the unbanked, if you go to the next slide, this gives way to disappearance or the displacement of cash. We've been talking about this for years. For years, Latin America has been known as a region where cash is king. Today in 2022, we can officially say that that is no longer the case. When we look at our top 6 markets, cash today is representing an estimated 46% of face-to-face retail. That's down from 75% in 2020. So that is a tremendous change. Just before, right before we hopped online, we were chatting amongst ourselves, what a difference that a pandemic makes. And that's absolutely true. Now, this change has been led by Brazil and Chile. So these black bars here are indicating the penetration of cash. And cash is still sticky and high in certain markets, but we have seen an improvement over the years. And a little bit of the goal of this first part of the presentation is to, okay, we have geometric cash displacement. Where has that cash gone? Which payment methods, payment rails, ecosystems have captured this cash that has disappeared? So if we go to the next slide, taking a little bit deeper look into some of these markets in particular, you can see how the decline has occurred in each of these markets. Really impressive change in Brazil. You know, just anecdotally, when in conversations with Brazilians, you know, cash, Pix is the new cash. Cash, no one has cash anymore. Of course, Brazil is a massive country with big, large geographies that are not operating at the same level as the south of Brazil. So of course, there are still pockets of cash, but by and large, we've seen a huge drop. Chile as well, Colombia and Mexico, we still see, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru, we still see stickiness, but again, a huge improvement over time. Mexico is the country with the least progress. And we can go into that in another session, many reasons maybe that may be, but Mexico is still a country where there's mega opportunity for this same transformation to take place in the coming years. So what has taken the place of cash? That's the big question that everyone kind of has top of mind. So to help answer that question, you know, you guys will get all the data, by the way, to this deck. You'll receive it in a follow-up email, so you'll have access to these numbers. But important to notice that what has taken over cash is very different in each market. So at the bottom of the slide here, we have the penetration of wallets, QR code, and other payment methods. Basically anything that's not cards or cash. And so of course in Brazil, we see mega penetration of Pix and other digital payment methods like closed loop wallets. Brazil, of course, is where we've seen the most disruption in payment methods. Interestingly, Chile kind of has very low penetration of other payment methods, indicating that cards have really taken over this cash displacement. Same case in Mexico, where debit cards in particular have really eaten up the space that was taken by the reduction in cash. And Colombia and Peru kind of somewhere in the middle. So this starts to tell some of the story of the cash displacement that we're seeing in the past 2 years. If we go to the next slide, we do have to talk about cards, because in the past year, the chatter in the industry has been mostly about Pix and bank account transfers. But we cannot lose sight of the fact that card volumes have actually been keeping pace with if not surpassing the rate of digital transformation in the region. And when we look at the growth of card volume in Latin America compared to a global scale, we can really see that Latin America has played a dramatic catch-up game when it comes to purchase volume using credit and debit cards. So these bubbles here represent year-over-year growth from Q1 2021, Q2 2021 to Q2 2022. So in the past year, the growth of card purchase volume, more than 40% in Latin America. We also have seen more than 20% growth in issuance and more than 30% growth in acceptance. So cards are not being left behind by any stretch of the imagination. Their volumes are growing aggressively. So that's an important part of the story to keep in mind. They are, however, losing share when we look at the total pie because of the emergence of what we call new ways to pay. So if we go to the next slide, 3 major new ways to pay that we're observing in the region. And these have really started to gain traction in 2021 and are continuing to consolidate themselves and accelerate their growth in 2022 and beyond. So first, digital accounts. This is no longer news. There's 3 different key models of digital account payment methods: bank-owned wallets, Yape in Peru, Yapi in Panama are the 2 best examples of this. Private networks, whether it's a closed-loop wallet or a consortium of banks, such as PSE in Colombia, and of course, public networks managed by central banks, PIX, of course, Simpe Móvil in Costa Rica, Transferencias 3.0 in Argentina. In 1 year, these networks managed to account for 15% of in-store payments and 16% of e-commerce. In 1 year, these captured this level of share, cannibalizing mostly cash. Cannibalizing mostly cash. And these are going to continue to grow. Our projection is that PIX kind of is going to stabilize at around 30% of e-commerce transactions in the next couple of years. Second, point of sale financing. This goes above and beyond traditional credit card installments. And we have a whole variety of models enabling new types of credit for non-credit card holders. Today, this is representing just about 2% of e-commerce, growing 50, 60, 70, over 100% per year. These small fintechs growing from a small base, but we'll get into double-digit share in the next couple of years as more and more innovative and accessible ways of providing credit become available. And then the third new way to pay is cryptocurrency, and this is still less than 1%, okay? Nothing that's having a relevant share right now, but with all of the movement and traction and investment we see in this space that we're going to talk about just in a moment, we do expect this to become relevant and something that we really need to be thinking about enabling and watching and understanding how our company fits into this big puzzle. So, this is a little bit to help us understand what has happened with cash displacement. Where did all of that cash go? And what's the competitive environment between cards and all of these new ways to pay, and essentially watching these various payment rails coexist and working together in some cases, competing in other cases, just like everything we've seen in the industry over the past few years. Okay, and then just to kind of close out this section, one very important on the next slide, a trend that I want to bring our attention to is that new ways to pay, particularly free and real-time payment methods and mobile accessible payment methods, so all of those boxes are checked by PIX primarily, are enabling fast and easy money movement in a cross-border way, specifically in emerging verticals: gaming, gambling, social media influencing, and money in and out of the crypto ecosystem. And this is putting Latin American consumers even closer to the international digital economy, making money movement easier, both to make purchases and receive money. So it's creating this kind of more horizontal relationship between Latin America and the global economy, powered by a whole variety of cross-border payment companies, these ones highlighted in the middle, that are enabling not only pay-ins, but payouts, enabling these new verticals to take root and in many ways, leveraging the growth of PIX and other accessible payment methods to facilitate rapid money movement across the globe. Okay, so if we go on, that's really to help us get our bearings. What has happened in the past 2 years? Where are we? And give us some numbers to wrap our head around, to provide, planning for the future. And all of this movement we've seen in the past 2 years and where we stand today in 2022 has laid the groundwork for what we're calling the meta economy. And so if we go on, we're going to dedicate this next section to looking at the metaverse and how digital currencies are interacting with the metaverse and what this means for our region. But before we do that, I want us to pause and contemplate, what is the metaverse? This is a concept that's new vocabulary for us. It's getting thrown around a lot, and there's probably very low levels of understanding of what the metaverse actually is. And I love to dissect words and get to the root and the essential meaning of things. So in preparation for this conversation today, I sat down and really thought, what does meta mean? So I looked it up in the dictionary, right? What does meta mean? And so these are all little snippets of dictionary definitions: going beyond or higher or transcending, at a higher state of development, self-referential or at a higher level. And what I think is the most interesting definition is this one at the bottom: making or showing awareness of reference to oneself or to the activity that is taking place. And that's kind of tricky to get my mind around, but the way I understand this to mean is that, meta is about going to the next level, going beyond, but always keeping a reference to oneself. And so this to me means human activity, human consciousness, human desires duplicated and expanded thanks to technology. The manifestation of the metaverse is these virtual worlds where we duplicate everything we do as humans, but in a different way, with expanded capabilities, faster, easier, better, more, thanks to technology. It's just, it's humanity to the next exponential. And that's kind of what digital payments has already done to cash. Digital payments enabled faster, better, more convenient, expanded access to all the activities we already do with cash, now digitally. And now this is one more step beyond what we've known so far. So, for what it's worth, I think it's important and interesting to really get into the essential meaning of something that will help us understand at a deep level what's going on and how that can drive our business strategy. So I'm gonna, at this point, turn it over to Nacho to kind of get us familiarized with what's going on in the metaverse and globally and in Latin America, and how this is going to impact all of us on the call today.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. And you explained it very well. You said something like taking the humanity or the human interactions to the next level. And the truth is that nowadays the definition of the metaverse is still fuzzy. There is no authoritative definition of the metaverse, but several thought leaders have provided kind of a general framework. And the general idea refers to an immersive experience in virtual worlds. Sometimes we listen that the people use virtual worlds and metaverse as the same thing, but the truth is that they are distinct concepts. While the metaverse will be made up of numerous interconnected virtual worlds, no single virtual world can be the metaverse. So this definition of metaverse ultimately implies having more and more dimensions of our lives in virtual worlds. And even now that we are in an early stage, if we can go to the next slide, please. Even now, if we are in an early stage, we are currently watching how some dimensions are far more developed, mainly generating a completely new kind or types of business models and human interactions, as you said. So what can we define as the future potential of the metaverse, and what is known so far? So far, what we are watching as disruptive industry inside of the metaverse are mainly these, the virtual world economies that we're gonna speak a little more about that in a couple of minutes. But all the industries where we have any kind of human interaction also can be challenged by these new trends of the metaverse. That's why the future of the metaverse is estimated to an $8 to $13 trillion market. Just think the entertainment industry, the fitness, healthcare, sports, real estate, workplace. Just imagine doing this webinar inside of a virtual world with VR glasses. But so far, again, what we see is that there are huge companies as Meta and other companies developing the hardware that is necessary to have for creating these virtual worlds, and a very developed industry around the software that the metaverse needs. So we can find companies as Roblox, Fortnite, Axie Infinity, or NFTs marketplace as OpenSea, or those cases that we find very interesting here from Latin America, like Capitalica and others. The fact and the key message of this idea is that wherever there is a human interaction, wherever it is in the real or in the virtual world, there is commerce. And wherever there is commerce, there is a need for an exchange of value, and as a result, a payment method. So we can go to the next slide. We can see that in Latin America, the applications are not so developed as in other parts of the world. Of course, we have some penetrations of global players and big techs mainly, but we can absolutely confirm that some actors and areas are taking off in this meta economy, in these new ways of interaction and, of course, of doing business. In our opinion, and according to our research, we see the most dynamic areas in the gaming and gambling industry. Just to give you an idea, by the end of 2021, we estimated a $16 billion market in gambling and gaming together, which will grow at a 28% annual rate until 2025. And that's this faster than the e-commerce in general. For instance, the gaming industry, if we try to dimension that market, we're talking about the market with over 250 million persons, which is equal to 50% of all the adults. One interesting fact, and in my opinion, a sign of the potential in LatAm, is that one of the most popular gaming virtual worlds is in fact from Latin America. It is Decentraland. And this makes perfect sense because, as we were saying, the gaming and the virtual worlds are the beginning stages of creating own proprietary communities, like companies that are looking to and working for creating their own communities. And again, remember, wherever there is a human interaction, there is commerce, and wherever there is commerce, there is need of an exchange of value or payment methods. And this is exactly, next slide, please. This is exactly what we have been observing with the crypto revolution as an exchange of value of the new internet or digital economy, which, as all of you should know, is exploding, even during this crypto winter. If you go right now to CoinMarketCap, which is like a very well-known webpage and that show that of the market, you will find that right now there are more than 20,000 of tokens all around the crypto economy, including stablecoins, metaverse tokens, and like all the crypto market has more than 20,000 tokens right now, and there are more than 500 exchanges. Yes, of course, this market is very concentrated, and even again after this crypto winter, we are speaking about approximately a 1 trillion market cap economy. But Bitcoin and Ether, both of them holds the 60% of all the economy. In the stable coins, we can speak a little bit more about this at the end of this exposition. They already hold the 17% of all this market cap. The interesting fact here is that the crypto revolution began by disrupting the finance sector, but quickly evolved into the finance of metaverse. And we can see now how the companies are creating currencies for their own communities, for their own ecosystems. In fact, this debate is far from over, and we are currently watching a brutal battle or to develop the final, or at least play a leading role in what we can call the economy of the Web3, or the future internet finance. See cases as Meta with Diem, or Binance with BNB. These are very well developed cases of own currencies for their own communities. But Mercado Libre has announced that they are working in their Melicoin, and we have a lot of local regional exchanges which have also developed their own currency or cryptocurrencies for their communities. If we go to the next slide, I think that here is the key question. Again, we're trying to invite you to think about the future of the payment industry. Right, so we spoke about the metaverse and how the human interaction are changing the commerce, and we spoke also about the cryptocurrencies, but which will almost certainly lead the most heated debates and in my opinion the business revolution in the near futures are the NFTs, because Bitcoins drives the cryptocurrencies. And cryptocurrencies expand the blockchain use case far beyond the currencies. And ultimately, they bring the NFTs or non-fungible tokens into the scene. While cryptocurrencies are something we are quite familiar with, or maybe we are finishing to understand, in the face of the meta economy's future, the NFTs are a key crypto tool. And why? Well, because the NFTs are other kind of digital assets that brings, by first time in the history, this scarcity concept into the digital economy and the digital world, of course. And so you can imagine there is no price in any market if there is no scarcity. So anything in the digital economy can be developed as an NFT in a future meta economy, creating basically endless business opportunities, such as Nike, which announced in November that it will collaborate with Roblox and they will create this digital worth for being able the user to buy their shoes there. But there are numerous other companies which are using NFTs for their business. For example, Coca-Cola, L'Oreal, Gucci, and more recently, we have seen how Shopify have entered into this new world of the meta economy. How? Well, Shopify, it's letting their online merchant now to launch 3D and augmented reality versions of their product directly in their websites. And they are also promoting NFTs. Again, remember the uniqueness, the scarcity is the key feature of the NFTs revolution and a key element of this meta economy that we are describing. They are using NFTs for loyalty campaigns. So the opportunities are endless, that's for sure, but so are the questions. And anyway, the best part is that this revolution is taking place right now. This is happening right now, and we need to start learning this new language as soon as possible. Of course, for developing new models, new business models, but mainly for being part of this meta economy that we are debating today. So back to you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Nacho. Fascinating and very thought-provoking, especially this discussion around NFTs and brands developing goods to be sold, you know, in these digital worlds. It's truly a new frontier. So fascinating. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to help, try to put this all in context for us, ground this a little bit, because what happens when we talk about the metaverse and a lot of these things, it sounds and feels very futuristic. Sometimes it feels disconnected from the reality in Latin America, even though Latin America is one of the highest regions for adoption of cryptocurrency. Even so, when in our daily lives, we don't necessarily see this on a daily basis. So trying to bring this into reality for us, okay? Now, we get questions all the time. How big is the crypto market in Latin America? How much crypto is being used to make purchases? We don't have definitive answers to those questions today, but we can do some modeling based on some assumptions and some real data that we do have. And I hope this is helpful to all of you to put this in context. So if you'll walk through my logic with me here, we know that in 2022, e-commerce, all digital purchases, all online purchases, including travel, digital goods, retail, gaming, gambling, etc., is over $380 billion by the end of the year in 2022. So big market size for e-commerce. $54 billion of that is cross-border. So that gives us a sense of connectivity to the international economy. 16 billion is represented by online gaming and gambling, which is kind of some of the first examples of these immersive virtual worlds we're seeing in Latin America. Okay, so some key table stakes to understand market size. Now, Nacho shared with us that today crypto market cap, global market cap is about $1 trillion. Now, if we assume that Latin America represents between 5 and 10% of that, and that's a reasonable assumption because Latin America represents around 8% of GDP. So between 5 to 10, maybe 12% as maximum of total crypto trading, that puts crypto trading in Latin America between 50 and $100 billion. Okay. When we compare at that upper range, when we compare that to e-commerce, that's between a third and a quarter of all e-commerce. So it's a significant market. Now, a large chunk of that is institutional investing, huge transaction sizes. Most of it is for investment purposes. We know that. But this is also impacting the daily lives of consumers. Based on our own research, our own surveys that we've circulated the results recently, we have an estimated 157 million crypto buyers, consumers who have ever purchased cryptocurrency in Latin America. That's about half the number of people who are buying online, also a significant population. Within that, we have 25 million individuals who have made a purchase using cryptocurrency. So that helps us put this in perspective, okay? Now, we take these assumptions and this modeling a step further. If we assume that these 25 million crypto purchasers spend just 1% of their annual e-commerce purchasing using a cryptocurrency, that could equate to more or less $120 million spent using cryptocurrency to make purchases. Okay, I'm going to say that again. That's a question I get all the time. How much volume is being spent to make purchases with crypto? It could be around $120 million this year if only 1% of the e-commerce spend among those who have made a purchase using crypto, if those assumptions are true. That could be double. It could be up to 300 or 400 million if we increase that 1% to 2% to 3%. So there's a lot more research and investigation to be done here to really get a better number. But this puts things in perspective for us. So when we compare 120 million or maybe 300 million to the total e-commerce volume, it's 1% maybe or less. However, there is a market there. We see tangibly a number that we can assign to that market. And based on the lightning speed adoption of cryptocurrency and the investment by huge major players in the region, we expect this to grow in a powerful way. So that's these numbers are non-definitive. They're modeling based on some assumptions that we've shared with you, but hopefully that gives us some all of this metaverse talk. It grounds us in reality and puts it in context with true numbers that we do know, and can get us excited about the traction of digital assets in the region. Okay. So I see some great questions coming in. We're going to address them momentarily. If you go on to the next slide. We're almost to the end here. If we just do one more click. We've delivered a lot of content and a lot of data, and I want to take just a couple minutes to kind of provide some final thoughts. What does this mean for us? So, we started off this conversation talking about the displacement of cash. Okay, so just remember, cash went from 75% of retail to now 46%. That's a whole, billions of dollars that are now taking place over digital payment methods that was never accessible to our industry before. Okay, so that's already huge growth. We have new payment methods, including account-based transfers, credit or buy now, pay later, and cryptocurrencies that are going to continue to displace cash and increase the size of our market. At the same time, cards are keeping pace with this cash displacement, growing more than 40%. So we have an environment where we have universal banking access in most cases. We have new payment methods that are opening up new capabilities. And we want to call them traditional payment methods, credit and debit cards, continuing to grow at an alarming pace. And this is setting the stage for an entirely new economy that will only expand. $380 billion in e-commerce today, that's going to expand that exponentially over the course of the next 10 years. So that's what we want to be thinking about. So that's what we've understood so far. If we go to the next slide, just to ground this even further, this slide, there's a lot here, but the point of this slide is to visually show, if we look at this, the bottom row, this is the value chain that culminates all of the payment methods we see operating in our region, from cash all the way to crypto. So we have cash, still 46% of retail, still big, still a big, that's about $500 billion, right? So we still have this major cash market, all right? That cash needs to be useful in a digital environment. That needs to be deposited into a digital account, whether it's a bank or a neobank or a fintech. And we need all this technology and capabilities to enable that to happen safely and securely. We then need to convert that fiat currency into crypto. That requires a whole nother set of capabilities, including integrations with crypto exchanges, easy on and off ramps to help people, including all different types of payment methods that people want to use. Crypto as a service, enabling more institutions to hold or provide the capability of consumers to access crypto. Only when we've reached that step can we now engage in crypto commerce within the metaverse or within a gaming platform, within any of these immersive virtual spaces, which we think is about 120 million, or could go up to maybe 300 million this year and will continue to grow. Then on the cash outside, if I'm receiving a disbursement from gambling winnings, from gaming winnings, from selling an NFT, I need to be able to easily convert my crypto, store it in a wallet, and secure that balance in a stable coin, or maybe use that balance easily using a crypto linked card, or maybe leverage my crypto balance to use as collateral for credit. To increase utility even more of that balance, I need to be able to convert it back into fiat currency. That requires a whole series of services and capabilities. And to then finish the circle, I need to be able to cash that out into cold hard cash. So this is the entire value chain. And here are just some examples of the technologies that will be in increasing demand, where you all can solve pain points, offer value, and support the development of this trend in line with consumer demand. So at the same time, we have this crypto kind of cash to crypto life cycle. At the same time, Gambling, gaming, other types of virtual worlds, many of them don't require a digital asset at all and are all based on fiat currency. So we're having fiat currency, digital currency coexist and requiring faster and better conversion and fluidity between the two, which is where our whole industry is moving and where all of the brands that we work with, all of our clients are working and innovating to reduce the friction in moving in and out of between payment methods, between payment rails, and between currencies. Okay, so if we go to the next slide, based on everything we've said and continuing to look at the region from a futuristic standpoint, understanding what's going to be the next thing that we need to be prepared for over the next 5 to 10 years, some additional emerging ways to pay are already starting to take root. Crypto as collateral, using crypto as collateral for credit. We see this already on the global stage. Central bank digital currencies. We already have a couple of live examples in the region. We have concrete pilots in development in Brazil and Peru. This is really the government's response to the cryptocurrency revolution and the attempt to reduce the use of cash even more in our economies. Points and miles, banks, issuers, retailers, marketplaces and ecosystems, leveraging loyalty points and miles as a currency, not requiring any conversion to any type of currency, but using this directly as a payment method. We're seeing select use cases, and we expect this to grow even more. And then the one that's probably the least familiar is earned wage access, giving employees or gig economy workers immediate access to the salary they've earned ahead of their payday, and enabling that as a payment method within a connected marketplace, allowing consumers to access their funds and immediately pay for goods and services without the need of an intermediary bank or payment method to facilitate that transaction. These are things that are happening already on the global scale. We're hearing whispers of them in Latin America. And if we're thinking from a futuristic standpoint, long-term thinking, these are things that already need to be on our radar. Okay. And then if we go to our final slide of our presentation today, just a couple of final questions to tie this together. Cash displacement, the emerging meta economy. What are some essential questions that are driving us at AMI? You'll see us continuing to develop thought leadership around these questions. We think these questions are interesting to you, but we also want to know what your essential questions are. Top of mind, and it's the easiest question, which payment methods, payment rails, blockchains, and currencies will continue to cannibalize cash? In which consumer segments and in which use cases? We need to know the answer to this question so we can position ourselves correctly in alignment with the trend in whatever geography that we're looking at. Okay. For traditional players, what are the operational deficiencies of some of these emerging payment methods? What are their limitations with regard to security, chargebacks, reversals, merchant services, et cetera? And what opportunities does this create for my business? Everything related to the development of the metaverse in Latin America. How is this going to materialize? Which specific use cases are going to be most important? Around the whole question around NFTs, how is that going to take root in the region, and what capabilities are required to enable this? One thing we haven't touched upon in this presentation, because it requires its whole own conversation, is the impact of government. And, I phrased this very particularly: what will be the competitive impact of government intervention? Because government decisions impact the competitive environment around real-time ACH, central bank digital currencies, and regulation. Increasingly, governments are taking on a role of competitor in our payment ecosystem. And so how is this going to impact us going forward? And then at a more macro level, what will potential recession in the US and globally, how is that impacting us in Latin America? And the demand for innovative payment products, alternative payment schemes, easy and seamless money movement, when we have recession in the US, that essentially impacts Latin America usually negatively, but it also creates opportunity for disruption, making money movement and commerce even easier, cheaper, better. And so what will be the impact of that? These are just some questions that you're going to see us grappling with that we hope are valuable to you as well. Okay, so that's our presentation. That's our content. Thank you all so much for your attention. We're going to get to our questions. We have several great questions in the chat right here. But before we do that, I want to poll you guys. We want to connect with you one-on-one based on this material. We want to understand how it's landing with you, what you're seeing, what you're understanding. We want to present this content more often to more companies. So if you're interested in engaging with us, we're happy to organize a presentation of this individually to your team. If you want to have a call with myself, Nacho, or any of our other senior people to discuss these trends, we're very happy to do that. We want to be in touch with you. So give it a couple more moments for you guys to answer. Take a moment. And if not now is the right time. If now is not the right time, no problem at all. You'll have this content for you to access when and if you want to discuss more. Okay, so we'll give about 15 more seconds. And in the meantime, you guys can put in any, we have about 15 minutes for questions. So take a moment to think about the questions you may want to consider. Okay. All right, so I'm going to keep this up for those of you who haven't answered yet. But we're going to go on to our Q&A right now. So I'm going to just open up the panel here, continue to put in your questions. And I'm going to start with this very great question, and Nacho and I will kind of answer these together. This is a great question to start us off, right? Currently, there are dozens of digital banks and wallets. Do you think there will be a consolidation, or will they somehow coexist? And if there is a consolidation, what will define the ones to survive? Size, level of service, variety of features offered, etc. So that's a $1 million question, right?
The $1 million question, exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you want to share your thoughts first, Lindsay?
Yeah, so thanks for the question, Nathan. So I do expect a consolidation, and we're seeing this already reflected in when we look at some of the top ecosystems, some of the top fintechs. They are experiencing pressure, more pressure than ever, to become profitable. Startups, venture capital has started to, I don't want to say dry up, but it is more scarce. And investors are wanting to see the return on their investment. We've had many years of kind of lots of money being pumped into this sector, and investors are now wanting to see their return. So that's causing companies to lay people off, focus in on core capabilities, and focus on profit generating activities. And so that, I think, will lead to consolidation. And in the end, I don't know if this is at what point this will take place, but at some point, whether or not you're profitable is going to determine if you survive or not. And that really is defined by your ability to move successfully into credit, your ability to successfully move into commerce, segments of the industry that have a track record of generating consistent profit over time. So those are my initial thoughts. Nacho, do you have anything else to?
No. I basically agree. I would divide the answer of this question. Again, this is $1 million question, with like separating Latin America from the world, because the whole world is for sure seeing this kind of consolidation. This is because of the macroeconomic effects of the pandemic, but also because of the VCs, which are much more tough in terms of giving money and letting the digital wallet go ahead with this long-term model that they have had during the past 8 years of growing and not making money. In fact, just to give you a data point, last week or the week before, the Sterling Bank presented their first full year profitable result by the first time in its history. So we're watching that like a global phenomenon. And in Latin America, the same, of course, is happening, but the context is different. Why? Because Latin America entered into this digital wallet revolution later than the world. And we can see different levels of development in the different economies. For example, in Argentina, we have more than 35 wallets and only one has closed now. And because, to be honest, its business models didn't make a lot of sense. But in the rest of the region, we are looking this tough competition between super apps and smaller wallet than the super apps. And what we see is that they are going to the communities, and that can be the trend that will follow the region. Who is gonna win? Yes, of course, those ones that are profitable, but I think that's also those ones that have the features that better understand their communities. Because as we have seen in this meta economy global trend, the communities are pretty much all, and the community and to create a good community means that you have loyal customers, and those loyal customers are those ones that will make your business profitable even in the tough times.
All about generating scale, right? Scale and maintaining that scale. Thank you, Nacho. Great question from Alex. And I'm not sure I 100% understand the question, but we can speak to it, right? How do crypto e-commerce volumes, right, around the 119 million that we reported, overlap with spend in gaming and NFTs versus tangible goods? Is it a new currency for a new category of mostly virtual goods? You want to go for it, Nacho?
No, yes, I just wanted to say, because these and Santiago's questions are both very interesting. I just want to say that there is no data for this. So all what we can say is like suppose an answer. And the truth is that the share of the gaming NFTs inside of, in quantitative terms, or inside of the crypto ecosystem, and no one has that data. But there is a concrete trend, and that is that this new virtual money, the ones that we spoke, like own communities money or coins or currencies, by now, yes, they are mainly in these like closed communities. There is non-global digital coin apart from Bitcoin right now, and we estimate that the 4 or 6% of the global populations have crypto at this time. So they still have a small penetration. But for now, yes, these digital currencies are mainly working in their own communities. They are not like being tried to other areas.
I do also believe, again, this is an area for research, absolutely. But I do also believe that there's, just like P2P transfers are used to make purchases, there's a decent amount of commerce using crypto in a P2P way. People who want to get paid in crypto, if they're selling, a stereo or a bike or selling something online. We occasionally get requests even from our vendors to get paid in crypto. So it's starting to take root in all different use cases. We need to identify what these use cases are. As I just said, the majority is within these virtual worlds, as you suggest, for a new category of virtual goods, but it's also taking place in some other areas. So we need to develop some more insight on this for sure. Cool. So our next question, and Nacho, this goes back to some of the data that we presented earlier on. We see, okay, so how do these new tokens from Mercado Libre or Ripio, how can they compete if Bitcoin and ETH are plus stable coins are more than 80% of the market? Is there really, going off of that, what are the use cases for these coins if the two majors are so dominant?
The major use case, I think that we can find at least two. One of them is loyalty, because these like own communities coins are that in the most of the times related like with promotions, deals, gifts, and discounts and whatever. So one of those is loyalty, and that's why they are only used inside of their own communities. But in the most interesting cases in terms of the meta economy, these own currencies are building the bridge between the different virtual worlds and communities. That's why the most part of them are stable coins. And these stable coins works as a bridge, not only from fiat to crypto world, like the traditional bridge for entering there, but also for connecting the different virtual worlds or crypto ecosystem. Why? Well, because nowadays we do not have full interoperability. As we don't have in the traditional payment methods, that debate is also being held inside of the meta economy. And the way that these isolated virtual worlds will reach that interoperability will be letting use their different currencies in this like different segments. So I think that these are like two sides or faces of the same coin. One is just like marketing, loyalty, like part of their business model. Okay, I want to do a discount, so I can do it in-house. I can give you my token, and you will change my token for my NFTs or inside of my own platform. So that's cheaper. But the other one, and the most interesting one, is how these currencies will let these different virtual worlds or meta economies speak between them others and create this bridge. And I think that that's one of the highest ideas behind the project of Meta, the ex-Facebook company. In fact, just yesterday, Zuckerberg did some speech speaking about this, how he feels that Apple is more close and he wants Meta to be more open, more like an Android, you know, like Android versus iPhone. But that debate is being held now, so it's fascinating to see which ones are the sides of the coin that brings more revenue for the firms and more opportunities for the businesses.
That's fascinating, Nacho, because there's this constant friction or tension between open environments and closed environments. And every single company would love to be the leading closed company. I mean, Apple, right? Once you have a fierce, loyal consumer base, you can afford to be closed. Now, if you're not the leader, you want things to be open so that you can play, have a more competitive landscape, and openness in the end benefits the consumer. So and now we're starting to see this tension eventually develop between blockchains and these virtual spaces. So that's fascinating. And Santiago, back to your question, you know, he's asking some additional thoughts on emerging payment methods like branded currency or prepaid store value vouchers. Rappi Créditos are a great example, right? That's essentially about loyalty, kind of, and the more you can develop a fiercely loyal customer base, the more viable you're going to be as a closed ecosystem. So it's a fascinating discussion and driving a lot of strategy around, you know, being closed or being open. How long can you afford to be closed before you have to be open, and how long can you survive as a closed ecosystem?
One interesting point, Lindsay, and I think that to all of our community, the AMI community, we should have this into our mind, is that the traditional financial sector has already been through this kind of debate. The interoperabilities among or between the networks or the POS, and in what we know from the history, from the recent history, is that when the market is not the one that shifts the trend to one clear sector, like a close concentrated player or open and decentralized, usually it is the government. So as you were saying before, the regulators are looking and overseeing this revolution very close, because the opportunities are huge, of course, but also some risk of concentration. And nowadays we cannot have a clear pick of which way is will win, if you want to call it in this way.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, fascinating discussion. We're out of time, but thank you all so much for being here and for your engagement, your questions. We'll be following up with those of you who requested that. We're excited to continue exploring these topics with you, get your reactions, get your input, and hopefully continue to research and build, you know, this future infrastructure that's already underway. So thank you all. We really appreciate your time. Thank you, Nacho. Great to have you guys here. We'll be in touch. You'll receive a follow-up with all the materials in the next 48 hours, and we'll see you soon. Thank you guys so much.